I am going to need this for this video. Hello, Kai here to talk about my least favorite books of 2022. Fucking finally. Obvious disclaimer, all my opinions, and if you don't agree, you don't have to. That's the beauty of opinions. All right, I'm just gonna get right into it. I have been waiting to do this video for a hot minute now, and I'm so excited to finally do it. Let you know how I be feeling. Okay, I'm getting hot, so I'm taking this off because I feel like I really haven't talked about like many of my least favorite books. The first one, starting off Lil Strong, is Universal Harvester by John Darnell. I only gave 2 out of the 10 books that are on this list 1 star. This is one of them. Universal Harvester has a beautiful cover, but that is where the beauty of it ends. It started off pretty well, pretty solid, but instantly it's like Darnell forgot what he was even doing, where the story was even supposed to be going. Like, he couldn't even tell you, because it starts off with this like creepy, eerie vibe. There is this guy who works at a Blockbuster type thing. It's like a movie rental place, and it is in like the 80s, 90s. It's not in current times, okay? Basically, this person like returns a DVD, and he's like, there's some weird shit on this, like some weird eerie stuff that I just witnessed on the TV when I just wanted to watch my movie. So then the main character goes home and he watches it, and it explains what that scary thing is. It shows us, and that is where it ends with the creepy stuff. This is supposed to be, a horror. John Darnell is a horror author, but it was not horrific in the slightest. And then right after that, this is like kind of in part 1, and then there's a part 2 that happens, and all of a sudden I'm like reading a different story. It's like I'm reading something completely different. We follow this family, and somehow it's supposed to connect, but I couldn't tell you how it did. I remember I posted this thing right here when I was reading it. I was like, why? I'm gonna keep on pushing through, but everything in me does not want to. That was back before I was a DNFer, so I would finish it, but I should have listened to everybody else when they said this book wasn't everything. And another book I read by this author was Devil House. And I also didn't like that one, not as badly. Like, that one I just gave a 2 star, but I don't know. Is John Darnell for me? I don't know, but I also want to read his one. What is it called? Like, it's something about a wolf. I don't really know what it's called, but I still kind of want to read it. I want to try it out. Like, I've always wanted to like him, especially with those covers, but okay. The next book that I have on here, book number 2, this isn't really in any kind of order, but that is The Perishing by Natasha Dion. I gave this a 2 star. I actually remember I buddy read this with Casey Can Read, and that was fun, but we both didn't really like it. And I also have a vlog where I was talking about it, and I will link that somewhere if you are curious and to know my full in-depth thoughts, I guess. This is a perfect example of when a synopsis does not quite match the story inside. The synopsis made it sound like kind of like a completely different story than what we actually ended up reading. And I think lots of people probably would agree with that. I wish I had some to read the synopsis off right now, but it was like a girl who time travels, but she kind of doesn't really know who she is and where she is. And like, we did get that, but not quite, not in the way at all of what we were expecting. I remember there was like a past scene. It was like in the 20s, I want to say, and then like a future scene, and it was like past the 2010s, like way past it, like it was like in 2300s or something like that. Those parts, they were so the girl was supposed to be the same character in both of those like timelines, but like the parts in the future were like 1 page long, and they didn't really give us much of anything, and then like none of it was really explained by the end of the book. And I remember, like, there was a little bit too much happening. Like, there was so many subplots. Like, I swear there was, like, 6 different things that the author wanted to do. And that was just overwhelming. It was a lot. It was ambitious. And I think that if like 3 out of those 6 things were involved, it would be a completely different story in both ways. I remember like just wanting to be done with it already, but I just kept on going, and it's only 304 pages, and I think it took like 6 days to read. Like, it took me a long time to read, like, not that many pages, and not every page was like even full. Like, it was a whole thing, and I was like, I really enjoyed the concept, but for the most part, like, it just fell completely flat, and I think that the characters were flat, and that was disappointing. It's more disappointing than like sucked, you know what I mean? The next book is After the Sun by Jonas Aika. I don't know how to pronounce that. I gave that a 2-star. This, I will completely admit, it probably went way over my head, and that's as simple as that. Like, that's probably why I didn't like it. I just probably didn't get it. I read this for the International Booker Prize, and like, it's a short story collection, kind of talking about some sci-fi stuff and some surrealism. And I think it was too much science fiction for my taste, my personal taste, and it just kind of went over my head, and I will completely admit that. But I remember being like, what, stupid, no, like, in the moment. Just because I was like, I can't believe I have to read this. I also, like, I bought it on Apple Books for like $4.99, and I hate buying ebooks, so I was probably extra mad about that. Look, these last 2 made it sound like I didn't actually really hate those books, which is kind of true. Because most of the books were mediocre. That's what I was saying. Like, my year, it wasn't that it like absolutely fucking sucked in reading. It just was mediocre. It was just 3 stars across the board all the fucking time. So 1 stars and 2 stars, as well as 5 stars and 4 stars, were just rare for me. That's why it was hard for me to make my best list, and it's hard for me to make my worst list. But there are some that deserve to be on here that I have not ever stopped talking about, and I'm so excited to get to this one because I have to let some things out. The next book I put on this list was A Very Nice Girl by Imogen Crimp. I gave this 2 stars. Nothing happened in this book, but like in the worst way possible. It was painfully boring. Basically, it follows this woman who is an opera singer. She's like 25, so like kind of young woman, 25, 27, I don't know. And then she falls for this guy who is like 20 years her senior or something, 15 years her senior, I don't know. She constantly is falling behind her peers because of the way, like, she's just having some times in her head, you know, kind of more or less like pretty depressed, and is kind of just moving throughout the world. Falls for this guy, but this guy is married, and like, she wants to be more than that with him than just this guy that she's seeing. That is so fucking boring to me. I'm so sorry. That is so goddamn. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care about your opera singing that you are not even that great at, apparently. And I don't care about, why are you fucking going for this guy who's like married? But like, is that the point? Like, it's supposed to be like a woman desiring something they can't have or some shit, because I don't really get it. And I don't have the patience for people who stay in relationships with dreadful men and get next to nothing in return. I don't care for it. It's weird, and it's overdone, and I'm sick and tired of it all, and there was nothing interesting about it. The writing wasn't even that, like, it wasn't good enough to make it be a good book. Nothing about it was good. I was going to say mediocre at best, less than mediocre, and I do not recommend this book because you will get nothing out of it. That's all I'm going to say. The next book, Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. 2 stars. If you look on my Goodreads, it does say 3.5 right now. I haven't changed it, but this is actually how I feel after reading the book. 2 fucking stars. Why? The biggest reason this book is on this list is because it does a thing that I don't like. And I don't really want to spoil the book because it really is a big spoiler of what happens that I don't like. That doesn't make sense to me. It angers me. So should I put like a spoiler section? If you've read this, you know, you can stick around. But if you have not and you want to, I would skip to right here. Okay? Here it is. Basically, the guy fucking dies. So the whole thing is about him dying, and he goes to like purgatory type situation, like what happens before you go off to wherever you're going to be for the rest of time. But he stays in this purgatory place for like months, even though that is very rare. They say that all the time. They're like, he's still here. Like, why is he here for so long? Usually it takes like people 3 or 4 days to pass over. He's still here. Blah, blah, blah. And like, apparently he just charms the fucking person who is in charge of where people go. Which I think they called him like, they called him a certain thing. I'll put it here if I can find it. And, like, it was, like, a little kid. I imagine him looking like Boss Baby, honestly. Because it was, like, a baby or something. But he was, like, the seer of all. Or something. He was God, bro. No, he wasn't God. But, basically, he decides, you know what? You've done so good here in purgatory. And you have, even though you were a shitty person in real, like, in life, before he died, like, that was another thing, his funeral, there was, like, 4 or 5 people, like, his ex-wife and, like, family, because nobody cared for him, and blah, blah, blah. So, the guy decides to let him live more. He brings him back to life. I don't want to talk about death too much, but, like, death is so permanent, right? Like, why the fuck would somebody be coming back to life? Do you get what I'm saying? You gotta get what I'm saying. Because I've explained this to Sam and he doesn't get it. But Ryan Murphy does this same stupid shit where he's just like, he resurrects somebody who looks like they're done for. And it happens over and over and over again in American Horror Story. That is so goddamn fucking annoying and so weird. Death is death, and I'm so sorry, but it's true. And I think that the big truth of it, the reason, like, I have had anxieties about this since I was, like, 7. So when people just la-di-da make somebody else go back to life again, that's weird. That's annoying. That's frustrating. It doesn't work like that. We all know this. That doesn't make for a good story. Oh, and they all lived happily ever after, and they're alive again. Oh, yeah, and he also fell in love with a human who was alive but worked in this purgatory state, I guess. Is it all supposed to be just fantastical and maybe I'm the stupid fucking bitch? I don't know. But I didn't like it. That's for that exact reason. I just worked up a sweat trying to explain that. I hope you understand. I'm gonna have a fun time editing this one. I was just like having my headphones on and all of a sudden I'll be fucking ringing in my own ear. How annoying would that be? The next book, I actually have this book. I didn't have any of these other ones, but I actually have this one. And I last minute put this on this list. Okay, I wasn't going to, but then I decided it needed to be here. Just because I have a few things to say. That is none other than Loveless by Alice Oseman. A very, very anticipated read for me. So much so, like, I wanted to like it so much. I, after reading it, did not rate it because I felt bad for not liking it. So on my Goodreads, it is left unrated right now. This is a book about Georgia who is finding out her asexual and aromantic identity. But she is weirdly fucking upset. This is the thing that pissed me off the most, I think. She is weirdly upset that she hasn't had her first kiss yet when everybody else has. She's like 18. That's when I had my first kiss. First of all, like, what's the fucking problem with that? I don't think there is one. It's like when people like talk about, what, you lost your virginity so late. Who gives a fuck when any of that happens? It's all fucking arbitrary anyway, right? And in high school, I was hella aware of that. Like, when does it, I don't know. It's like, when does it happen when people are like, oh, you've never had your first kiss? And especially if you don't want to have your first kiss. Georgia doesn't want to have her first kiss. She's never felt inclined to have one. So if that's the case, why are you so obsessed with it? Of course, asexuality and aromance, it's not talked about a lot. It's not. And that's why I just wanted to like this so much. I wanted to be there for Georgia, but she was kind of a selfish little brat who I couldn't root for, and I was so fucking annoyed with every single thing that she said, and it was awful being in her head for 300 plus pages. I liked the people around, like Pip, and I really liked Pip. Like, Pip was my favorite, and that's the only person's name I remember. Hello. And like, it was kind of fucking unbearable. I think it should be more important that, like, she needs to come to the conclusion, which she never did. She needs to come to the conclusion that it's okay to not have your first kiss so soon, and it's okay to not want it either. And she looked up asexuality and did a brief little, like, oh, maybe I'm asexual, and then nothing else. And I know that this is Alice Oseman, I think, is asexual, so I don't want to say, like, too much. Like, this is kind of an own voices, but at the same time, I feel like this was, I guess the right way to say this is it was being spoon-fed to a person who doesn't know what asexuality is, and it felt like it was like a person who hasn't experienced asexuality. Oh my god. Like, I'm not saying that about Alice Oseman, I promise I'm not, but I'm saying it about the book. Like, I'm saying it about the writing. It's like, I don't know how to explain it without, like, saying too much. But if you read this and didn't vibe with it, I think you probably get what I'm saying. And that's another thing, like, asexuality is such a fucking broad ass spectrum. It barely even touched the tip of the iceberg. Like, it grazed the tip of the iceberg when talking about it. And for a book that promotes itself to be all about asexuality, like, obviously it is, but I just wish it went so much more deep into that conversation. But it was so fucking basic level. It was like something I would have to, like, tell a fucking old woman to hope that they understand what asexuality is. Like, I didn't like that. I wanted this to be unabashedly just about asexuality, a romance, but it was not. And, like, that's another thing too. Like, I just feel the way that I fucking feel, and I don't really care to label it necessarily, but if I were to label some things, like, I would probably be like, yeah, more than likely asexual, whatever. I don't care either way for my own self. That's just for me. But I wanted to see somebody else kind of in that same vein, and of course, like I said, it's a broad spectrum, but this, again, barely grazed the tip of the iceberg in this conversation, and that disappointed the fuck out of me, and that's just why I left it unrated. Georgia was annoying, and I barely got what I really wanted to get. But I will say, parts of it made me cry, because something happened where, like, her friends put something together, and it was kind of like a flash mob type thing, and those will always make me cry, bitch. Like, if it's like a group doing something for somebody that they love. Oh, the waterworks. I'm a water sign, what can I fucking say? But that'll always get me. So it did make me cry, and that's another reason I felt, like, so conflicted. I'm like, the story kind of sucks, and I don't want to read any more of this, but then parts of it were, like, kind of really super cute, and I was like, okay, that's how I feel about that. But how frustrating is it to read all about somebody who keeps saying, like, I haven't had my first kiss, but I don't want to kiss anybody, then don't. If you do not want to kiss anybody, you do not have to. If your friends make fun of it, they are not your friends. But your friends did not. Your friends were fucking there and comforting and there for you. So what is the fucking problem? Nothing. Are you 10? You know, that's how I genuinely fucking felt when it comes to that book. Okay. One page done. All I have is this, guys. It's okay. I can't believe I've been doing this for 25 minutes, but I'm coming up to the one that I really have a thing or two to say about. So that means chugging the rest of this, right? I think I could. I was actually trying. That's hard. I never fucking drink like that. Like, but it's kind of fun. It gave me a brain freeze and made me feel like I had to throw up. I'm not doing that. I can't chug. Okay. Next book on my list. Check Out 19 by Claire Louise Bennett. That's my last name. 2 stars. We both spelled it the same way too. That's something. I don't really have much to say about this. I just gotta say that, yeah, we get it, Claire. You can fucking write. We get it. It was verbose at points, and that is annoying to me. And then not only verbose, but boring as all fucking hell. So those two things together, kind of like, maybe the best word for it is pretentious even. And those three things together make for a very disappointing read. There's a cardinal on the line right now. He's so bright. There was this one chapter, I think it was like chapter 3, and it was like 100 pages long or something. It was probably like 85 pages long. It was like 137 minutes. And it just kept going on, and this book is kind of like a book about a book. Like this woman is an author, and so the chapter that I'm thinking of was a story that she made, and it was kind of like it felt like a little kid's story, but it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be like an excerpt from her book that was for adults, but it really did ring like a fucking kid's, like, the moral of the story type book, which was weird to me. But that was so fucking boring. And like, there was parts that I like literally rolled my eyes. I'm like, why did she describe it like that? Like, again, with verbosity. Like, it was painfully boring. And I can't believe I actually read that whole entire thing, again, before my DNF era. So I was gonna finish that shit. I remember listening to the audiobook while I was washing dishes too. And like, that's when I was like, what in the fuck? And like, the one chapter, I was waiting for it to be over. It was like about this guy, the chapter I just referenced, it was like about this guy who was going about his life, and I was like, ugh, this is so boring. So yeah, okay. This is the one. The next one is the one. And I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, because I feel so seen, because I at first I was like, I only saw good things about this book, like on Bookstagram, only good things. But this has made some of my favorite YouTubers' least favorite books of the year as well. So without further ado, I actually own this book. I paid $27 for it because it was a highly, highly anticipated read. Oh yeah, and it's the other one that I gave a 1 star. Wait, okay, I might cry. I feel so sensitive right now because this was bad. This was my first Quick and Mizzy book. I thought this was going to be amazing because they are talked about up and down, left and right. They are a classic household name, I feel like, at this point in time, right? With the death of Vivek OG, I think it's called, and with Pet and Bitter, and what else? Like, I know all about them. This was my first book I decided to pick up because what an amazing title. What an amazing cover. Both covers were so amazing. I picked this up in the summertime, like shortly after it was released. This was a highly, highly anticipated read for me. I gave it a 1 star. I don't like romance already. I already don't like romance. This is a romance book. It's marketed as such. But it's marketed kind of as a literary romance, kind of like 7 Days in June, which I loved. One of my favorite books. The thing about 7 Days in June is the characters were characters. They were people with hopes and dreams and fears and ambitions and sadness and all of the things that a human or a character needs to have within them. These characters had none of that. Somehow had none of that. Very one-dimensional characters. That's just the first thing I have to say. Let me tell you a little bit about what it's about, because this is basically Faye, the main character. She has lost a husband 5 years ago. They were high school sweethearts, and a big car crash happened and he died in it. This is also another thing. I was scared to read this. I was scared as fuck to read this. I was gonna start it one time, and then I was like, I can't. My OCD is out the wazoo. And so, with a book about death, I just couldn't. I just couldn't. Oh, I'm really trying to fucking think of a way to put this now that my brain's mush. Then Fei is for the first time in those 5 years, she is out and about and getting her sex on. Nah, she's getting it all out there. Okay? After 5 years of not doing that because she felt guilty or she was still grieving and all of the, So she starts out fucking this guy. I don't even know what his name was because he's not important. Then she meets that guy's friend. And his name was Nasir. And Nasir is like talking her up and she's like, we can go slow. Like, I really like you, but we can go slow. We can just stay friends for right now until you're comfortable. But I'm here for you and we'll see where it goes. So she has this like weird relationship with Nasir. Never had she doesn't have sex with him or anything. She doesn't even kiss him or anything. Like they're just friends. But he offers an invitation because she is an aspiring artist. He offers an invitation to his parent or his dad's island. And there is some big important thing that's happening there that can really get her art out there. And that is very, very important to her. So she goes with Nasir to the island. And then when she's there, she finds out his dad is a celebrity chef, a Gordon Ramsay type, if you will, okay? But he's sexy. And ... No. You know where that goes. That was a Mamma Mia reference, by the way. And so she is talking to Joy, her best friend, and she's like, oh my God, it's this guy. Amir, I think his name is. It's Amir, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh my God, I just realized this is what it says. She even started dating the perfect guy, but their new relationship might be sabotaged before it has a chance by the overwhelming desire Fei feels every time she locks eyes with one person who is most definitely off limits, his father. Okay, fine, whatever, cute, whatever. Because, like, father, romance, like, I actually wrote a note because I was doing a vlog for this. Oh my God, I never posted that vlog. It was in November because I was like, I'm gonna read a bunch of books that I'm gonna love for my birthday month. Hell yeah. And then I read this and it was literally like, how is it the opposite? How did I give it a 1 star instead of a 5? I said 5-star across the board. Anyway, but I wrote a note and I was like, okay, I kind of like the forbidden aspect of it. Like, I'm not being a prude about who she decides to date. Okay, let me just tell you that. So anyways, or who she decides to have the hots for. So anyways, both Amir and Fei kind of feel this energy happening. Eventually, Nasir goes somewhere while Fei is still allowed to be in Nasir's father's home. So that's what happens. They are together in this close proximity and they just can't keep their eyes off of each other. Amir, his wife died 15 years ago. So that's what they have in common. That's all they have in common. All we know about Fei is the fact that she is an aspiring artist or an artist and she lost somebody close to her. The only thing we know about Amir is that he is a celebrity chef and he lost someone close to him. I am not joking when I say that. There's no character development. There's no reason why they should be together. We did not get any of that proof. And we didn't even get the proof of why Fei and her late husband should be together. All we know is that they were high school sweethearts. That is not enough. That is not enough to make a good story. That's not nearly enough. Like, I literally sat and tried to think of at least 5 things I knew about Fei, and I could only think of those 2. Not a joke. That is how you know that is not a good character that you made. And then, of course, Nasir finds out that Amir and Fei are having this flirtationship and kind of more or less they're getting physical, okay? And then they're like, we're gonna have to tell Nasir. And he's like, yeah, I'll tell Nasir. And of course, his sister, Nasir's sister, they were rightfully so kind of pissed off at their dad. Because Nasir was like, bro, that's a girl I like. And his sister was like, she's Nasir's age. Again, okay, whatever, forbidden, like, age gap, I guess, woo. I don't think I get age gaps as much, okay? Okay. But then Nasir turned into this ugly monster of a person, randomly. He does a fucking 360, and he's like, "You stupid bitch! I can't believe you fucking my dad! You're nothing but a slut!" Or something. I don't really know what he fucking says. Put yourself in that kind of fucking shoe. Here's the thing. Okweke Emeze said dating. You're dating this guy, okay? I'm just saying what they said. And you fuck. Okay, I'm sorry. She didn't fuck Nasir's dad just yet. But they are, again, getting physical. Getting close. And Nasir's not supposed to be upset? I'd be upset. And you cannot fucking act like you can't villainize me for being upset. I villainize Faye and Amir for doing some weird shit. There is so many other people out there, and especially this is like why it was so important for me to say, what the fuck do those two have in common besides losing somebody that they loved? I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you anything else they have in fucking common. So, what's so good about this coupledom? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not worth it. Is it really worth it, Amir, to fucking have your son and daughter look at you differently? Is it really worth it, Faye, to fucking hurt somebody along the way in this reckless path? I don't think so. And it's not cute. And it's not cute messy. It's fucking gross messy. And I don't like it. I don't fuck with it. You're a bad person, Faye. I'm like acting like these are real people. I was frustrated, can you tell? That's enough of that because this is 41 minutes long. Let me get to the next book. I did not like this. This pissed me the fuck off. And it will be, maybe, I'll put it probably on Pickup Books. Next. So, I'm just gonna do these last two real quick. The Lightness by Emily Temple, I gave it 2 stars. This was super anticipated for me too. Like, I wanted to read this back in like February. I was like, okay, it's on my TBR. Like, I'm excited to read it. It's like a cult book, kinda. Like, it's marketed as like it's about a cult and shit. But, like, I don't know if I would call it a cult. It's basically just a bunch of girls hang out in this place, like, in the mountains. And the reason why the main character wants to go is because that was the last place her dad was at, and her dad went missing, even though she was really close to him and everything, so it was really bad that he went missing, traumatic for her, and she wants to figure out why and how and where and all that. It was good, but it was basically like a Mean Girls cult. She ended up with the mean, snarky little girls who you probably want nothing to do with. But she ended up being friends with them, but then shit goes down and like, uh-oh, they're actually shitty people. I didn't know that type thing. And it's fun. Like, if you get caught up in like a fucking group, you can't really help that much. But it was annoying to read for sure. And the biggest reason why I wanted to pick this up is because it was compared to an Ottessa Moshfegh novel. And if you know me, you know she's my favorite author. I love me some Moshfegh, and I love something with Moshfegh vibes. Always. Moshfeghian, if you will. But this was not that, and never called it that again. It was literally in the synopsis, like, right there. Never call it that again. Because you did not, if you think this is like a Moshfegh novel, you don't know what a Moshfegh novel entails, and you have not caught the grasp of who she is. Okay? This was a basic story that anybody could have written, and it was like the characters were all annoying, and I wasn't rooting for anybody, and I didn't care about anything that happened. Oh yeah, and it was boring, and nothing really did happen until a few places here and there. I think like 1 or 2 times, but like by the end, it was leaving us. It was pretty lackluster. Okay, that's how I felt about The Lightness by Emily Temple, but the cover is pretty cool. And it wasn't very much cult-like at all. When I hear cult, I want something fucked up to be happening, like Godshot. That's a cult novel. Alright? Don't give me this stupid, pathetic shit. Okay. The last one. I actually have this one, but it's in my pile of books to go to a little free library because I don't want it anymore. That is none other than Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. I don't have much to say about this because right after I read it, it all left my head. I gave it a 2-star. I actually was doing a video, like a little vlog for this, but that is never going to see the light of day. Take a shot every time I say that. Well, I've only said it twice, but if you watch my entire channel, every single time I say that, that's so sad. It's so sad. I know it is. Anyway, this, I just gotta say, you know, it's Joe Hill. I have read Nosferatu, and I have read Horns, and now I have read this one. I loved Horns so much. I want to reread it sometime soon. And I really want to watch the movie. Like, I watched parts of it when I was younger. Like, I saw, like, I think I tuned in, like, halfway through, and I didn't even know what it really was. Like, I was, like, 15, I don't know, 14. I didn't really know what it was about, but I knew it had Daniel Radcliffe in it, and he was just doing his thing. But, like, I didn't know it was, like, based on a book by Joe Hill. I love Horns, okay? This is not it. All I gotta say really is that it is a boring, basic ghost story with nothing, bringing nothing to the table, nothing new, not compelling in the slightest. The twists were predictable. Truly one of the most generic things I think I've ever read in my life, and that is such a disappointment. Hello, Joe Hill. You are the same person who wrote Horns. You are Stephen King's son. What are you doing, man? This was not it. And so I literally just wrote this on here just so I could have exactly 10 books that I didn't like, but this was not doing it for me. This was not doing it for me. I got it at Goodwill, and it's like a library book, and so, you know, it says Queensboro Public Library. Oh yeah, I was like, Queens, like as in Queens, New York, and like right here it says Long Island City. So I guess so. That's kind of cool. Like, this has gone places, huh? And now it's going other places. I don't care for it. Okay. That's all. Cheers. Now, what are your least favorite books of the year? Again, I feel so bad always, like, not, like, I feel bad doing this video, I think. But it is just purely opinion. If I don't vibe with it, I don't vibe with it. So what are your least favorite books of 2022? I'm curious. Thank you for tuning in, and without further ado, good freaking bye.